Coming up tonight, surveillance video released this evening of the Chicago police shooting that killed 17-year-old Cedrick Chatman 3 years ago. Plus, criticism of the city mounts in the wake of that misconduct case. And now I'm joined by attorney Tony Romanucci. He is a partner at Romanucci and Blandin in Chicago. He represented the family of Latrice Wilson, who was shot 18 times by Chicago police back in 2007. He's joining me from Tribune Tower this evening. Tony, good evening. I appreciate your coming in.
Good evening, Paul. Thank you.
By the way, even in your case, the Latrice Wilson case, in that case, as I recall, millions of dollars paid to the family on the civil end. Nothing ever happened to the cops involved, right?
That was a $4.5 million settlement without video, and nothing happened to the police. And that's a situation where the city stated that it did not believe its own police officers in deposition.
So in today's case, I mean, I've seen the video. People are seeing the video. It's been released. We thus far, at least the video I've seen, I'm not sure the video clears this up, Tony. So where does it take us, other than the suspicions people seem to have?
Well, I saw the video, and I know the video is not that clear. It's not a Laquan McDonald type of video where it's as clear as that. However, what you do see is a figure running away from the police. Certainly, you can't tell whether or not there's anything in that individual's hand or not. But what you do see, Paul, now is a pattern. You know, the pattern of people running away and police shooting. So now whether or not he had an iPhone box in his hand, whether or not there was a gun in his hand, you know, we don't know. That's a factual dispute. But what we do know is that an IPRA investigator was fired over this particular investigation because he recommended that the officers be disciplined because he didn't see the gun in his hand. And
well, that's what he says.
A bit of time.
He says that.
Yeah. Correct, of course, but you have to give the benefit to somebody who had, you know, months of investigation on this too.
So it seems with each of these cases, and I don't know how many more are to come, I'm sure there are others, but as you say, we're beginning to see, we're concerned that we may be seeing, is a better way to put it, some sort of pattern of what's going on. But it looks like at least videotape and cameras, be it dashboard, be it the police cameras on poles, it's changing the nature of the game.
It's completely changing the nature of the game, and the police have to adapt to these strategies. You know, it's not even actually it's not even a question of adaptation. They just have to do the right thing. They have to police well. What these shootings are showing is that we have a poorly disciplined and not a very well trained police department. I'm not trying to pile on here because this is what it seems like everyone is doing. This is not piling on. This is what needs to be done from the beginning. Training. These officers don't know how to identify a situation where they need to use deadly force. That's the troublesome thing here.
Of course, there's all these calls for Mayor Rahm Emanuel to resign. Gary McCarthy already out. As a lawyer who's worked in these cases, you obviously follow these cases. If there is blame to be put here, is it at the feet of Rahm Emanuel, or is that a symbolic move?
No, I think it does have to be put there, Paul. I know, again, you don't want to be piling on. But he's the commander-in-chief. He hires the chief of police. He appointed his city attorney. He has control. We know that Rahm Emanuel is a micromanager. You have to lay blame at his feet. It has to start there. He's taken accountability. He's taken responsibility. Now we need to find out what he knew and when he knew it.
Of course, the mayor, you remember with Laquan McDonald, he said he didn't see anything until the public did. Today's Tribune reporting through the great work of Jeff Cohn, his colleagues. It looks like the mayor's top senior aides, they knew what was going on. And of course, lots of meetings with the mayor, although mayor's people seem to say it's just routine speaking or routine meetings. What's your thought about that? Do you think the mayor knew more than he says he knew?
I think he had to. I mean, you know, when you look at the relationship that he and Steve Patton have, and also with his other top aides, he gets a daily briefing. Laquan McDonald was a hot button issue before we really knew about it. So I would find it very suspicious that the city law department was wanting to know when this complaint was going to get filed. They were so concerned about the media being pointed at them on this particular case that the mayor had to know. He had to be able to respond to this. He wasn't going to be surprised if the Laquan McDonald lawsuit was going to be filed, which eventually it was, and it was settled. So of course he had to know. He wasn't going to be surprised at a Q&A at some school where he was cutting a blue ribbon or somewhere.
Tony, what do you do to change the culture? Because even if the mayor were to resign, which would create havoc anyway, this is a decades-old problem. The mayor himself said that.
It is. It's a decades-old problem, and it's going to take years to fix. There's no question that this is so deeply entrenched. The police have a culture of, as we know it, the blue shield, of protecting their own and not being transparent about what happens with the public, that it's going to take a long time. But Paul, I have to emphasize, it must start with training. It's expensive on the front end, but it will save a tremendous amount of not only money, but it will save a tremendous amount of loss of life, as we're seeing right now. It has to start with training. Police officers must be trained.
Wise words. I don't know how anybody would disagree with you. Tony Romanucci, thank you. You work in this area and you follow these cases, and appreciate your insights tonight. We'll talk to you again very soon. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Paul. Take care. Good night.